Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my studio. Leroy and I are ready for today's lunch and learn almost. So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to get on. We are broadcasting today's lunch and learn over our app. This is the first time we've done that. You don't need a biscuit right now, baby. And I just sat down in my sewing chair and Leroy Blue is here saying, "Hey mama, I'm ready for my biscuit, my biscuit, my biscuit, my biscuit." I can't see those over there. Oh. So, and you may have to move the camera. Debbie just came in like, okay, what am I supposed to do to help you? And so, because I have my camera on my stand. So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to join up. So, while we do that, so you guys enjoying the lunch and learns, I hope, and talking about all the One Block Wonder stuff. I think I have decided what we're going to do in November because we've got one more week this week and then next week to finish up One Block Wonder. And then next month, I think what we're going to do is the amazing wonders of the Tucker Trimmer. So we're going to talk all about Tucker Trimmer 1 and 3 next month and all the wondrous things you can do with them.
Are you feeling better? Hi, Becky. Are you feeling better?
So I have never not felt good. I have felt good the whole time. My voice is just really scratchy. My voice is still really scratchy. And I've had some nasal drainage and a little coughing, but I feel fine. Never better. And when I talk a lot, I cough. All right. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I think we got a good amount of folks on. I can't see any comments, so Debbie's sitting at my computer over here reading the comments. So you guys have been working on your One Block Wonders, and last week I was, where was I on last Tuesday? I was in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, kissing the grandbabies, so I wasn't here. Sorry. Little Jack was fun to hang out with. So the week prior to that, we talked about cubes and making cubes and how to make 60-degree cubes and so forth. And I'm going to try to zoom in on that a little bit so you can kind of see. Well, maybe not. Okay. So the 60-degree cubes are, doing these to where you can add some interest to your One Block Wonder because you're just making triangles. That's all you're doing is making triangles and setting them up to where the colors play off of them with a light, medium, and dark to make cubes. And so I've got some cubes here, and we talked a couple weeks before that about stars and different things like that. Well, now, Leroy, honey, you're not getting another biscuit. Go lay on your pillow. You've had plenty of biscuits. Go get on your pillow. He just looks at me like, but Mom, you're in your sewing spot. I get a biscuit when you sew. Okay, so I have a stack of half hexagons, and had I been really diligent with all of my homework, I'd have a stack about this big of half hexagons, but overcome by events, right? So what I'm going to talk about today is design, and so I have the cubes still up on my design board from a couple of weeks ago, just because I really like them. And then, and we're going to use them in our design. I also have in here the stars that we made, and so I'm going to put those in here. So what you're going to do when you start laying this out, use a design board or your extra bedroom if you have an extra bedroom. Or the other thing you can do is just go to the Walmart or the Dollar General and get a picnic tablecloth that's got a flannel back. And that flannel back allows the fabric to stick to that flannel backing. And you can just, clothespin that up in your sewing space or on an empty wall. But you really want some kind of space where you can really start to lay this out. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to start taking your half hexagons. Now, mine have a various of colors, okay? So mine have all kinds of colors in them. You may want to organize it to which ones are predominantly one color, like if it's one color pink or one color is predominantly orange or one predominant purple. And kind of those that have a predominant color group them together. You certainly can do that. You can make them random. If you're using a panel, You may really want to segment it, the colors, so you can feed those colors into the panel. Or, you can do kind of like how I do, and I just start randomly throwing stuff on the wall, and then I start moving it. And I just start laying out my hexagons, just on my design board. Just so I can start to see what it is they're making. Okay? And I just, this gets to be, this really becomes personal preference. All right, and again, I've got a lot of black in my background, and so I'm trying to keep some of the black ones together here, so the black will act as a feed to the next color. Okay. Then I can see where I didn't, lay it out just perfectly, so there we go. Okay.
So that's part of laying out.
That's right. So see how we've got these together here with the golds. And then I can start to morph into some more pinks over here that will go up nice against that cube. And this is a little more on the black. And so we're going to go that way with it. And what I'm doing is I just start working these into my design. Okay? And I really start just laying these out. And here's my suggestion when you do this. Pick your colorways that you want in your color groupings together. That's fine. And if you've done the extra fun stuff like the cubes and that kind of stuff, that's great. You didn't have to. It was just kind of how to add a little bit more interest. And just really start working that all in together. And then what I will always tell people is let it hang in your sewing room for a couple of days. And what will happen is you'll get a cup of coffee or, a piece of cake or pie, and you'll walk into your sewing room and you'll say, yeah, that's great, but it could be better if I did blah, 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 whatever. So you can kind of see I have the start of the layout. All right.
Says those flocks are like Cubert.
Or what?
Cubert. Remember Cubert?
Cubert. Okay.
The little video game guy, right? Or cartoon or whatever he was. He jumped around on the block.
Oh, okay. I remember vaguely. All right. So see how that's kind of all working together now? And you just keep building. You just keep building. Sorry, I'm a little shaky there. I had to move the camera closer so you could see my table's pretty far away from the camera. So you just start laying this out and then how you want it. And then what will happen is you start to study this and start to say, okay, yeah, that's great, but it needs to be a little more like blah. I need to move this one. Like, see, this has got more pink in it than black. So maybe I take this one and put it over here versus on the black side. It just, you start to play around with it and see how you want it. Also, it gives you an opportunity to say, hey, I need to add more stuff to this, as far as more interesting things. Like, I may think, oh, I really like this star, but instead of having just one, let's have one here and one here and one here. And then you have to say, okay, let's go make some more. Or I want to extend my cube, or I want to extend this or that. And you just start playing with these until you get the look and feel you want. Okay? Now, for me, I always run mine vertically. You can run it horizontal. That's fine. I tend to run things vertically. It's just a personal preference kind of thing. So I'm going to try to get this up a little closer so you can see it and keep my hand steady.
You do need to put them all either vertically or horizontal.
Yeah, you have to do them all the same direction, either all vertical or horizontal. Okay? So that way you guys can see that really good. And then once I have this laid out the way I want it, then it's going to be a matter of, now what do I do? So I would keep working on this and keep adding stuff to it and keep letting it mature and process, and then let it sit for a day or two, okay? Let it really sit for a day or two to let it make sure that that's really the look you want. Is that the feel you want? Is that the design you want? Is that what you're expecting it to look like? And then once I'm committed and I say, you know what? I'm good. Then all you're going to do is start taking your half hexagons and marry them together. Okay? And then you just stitch them, half hexagons. So I took these two down because they're next door neighbors. Fold them up together, marry them up, just like so. See right here, I'm matching my little doggy ears, matching my doggy ears up. And then I'm just going to take it and stitch. Okay? And then it goes, once I do that, and I've done that for my entire row, then that row gets hung back up on the design wall. And I literally only do one row at a time. Okay? And I'm very, very careful and not overly aggressively. I mean, I do chain piece these, but I, don't get overly aggressive because inevitably I will screw up. You can ask me how I know that. And, you just got to be sure you keep it the vertical orientation or horizontal orientation, whichever way you're going. Now, what will happen is on your edges, you're going to have, these big gaps here. So, there's ways that we're going to talk about next week. I'm finishing it up is how do I get it to all, come out just right? You can take off and not, have this extra half hexagon. Like if this is my edge, let's just say this is my edge here. So then I could take this one and put it here if I wanted to, or I could take and put a solid in here, or, some other interest item in here, or just use the other half of my unused hexagon from above. Just depends on, what you're wanting to do. Okay, questions? Any questions from anybody?
No, but Lauren says, great job making it look dimensional.
You try.
Those cubes really add...
The cubes add a lot of interest. I really like the cubes. The cubes add a lot of interest. And, you don't have to make your cubes just so big. As far as just one little piece of your design, you can add as many cubes as you want. You can add, you can make this as big or as small as you want. It's just entirely up to you. I will say, for me, this will probably be only like a wall hanging size. So all the extra fabric that I have, guess what it gets to be created into? My backing. So then that way, when I'm doing a trunk show and I'm coming and visiting your local quilt guild, I can say, and this was the original fabric on the back, and this is what I turned it into. So.
Or in a border. You could
our border.
A piece.
And the border, yeah. And a lot of times, and we'll talk about finishing next week, a lot of times what you can do in the border aspect, in something like this where black is such a primary color of mine, I could do an inner border of black and then use the material as my outer border, of course, or I can use it in my back, either way. A lot of options. All right, so as far as, is there any special, pattern or special idea with this? This really gets into your personal preference and your personal ideas of design. And so, I really challenge you to take the time and really play with this. Really invest, really try to turn it around and make it into more and more and more. Because you certainly can do a lot of things with this. You don't have to just limit it to, what you have. You can certainly add to it. For example, the Star 60 tool that we use to make this triangle here and to make the cubes, it does so many things. You can investigate, how to make that bigger and how to make that more complex. Yes.
If they would like to buy that, it's number
Yes.
100 right now.
Don't make me laugh. We do have the Star 60 tools available, and you can put it in your cart if you want to. But there's so many things you can do with this to make it more bigger and more better. So.
Can you remind them how they can go back and see the videos?
So we've done, I want to say 6 or 7 videos on the One Block Wonder right now. And this is our first one on the app. So the rest of them are all on our Facebook page. So if you go to Facebook page and go to videos, you'll be able to find them all. And we go through in detail how to prep your fabric, how to cut your fabric, how to, do all the steps that you need to do to get to this. So, all right. Well, I think that wraps up today. So go and play. This is your assignment this week. Go play. Go play and have a good time. All right. Well, thank you for hanging with us, and we will see you tonight at 9 o'clock. Bye.